Hi, this is James Ang with Full Capital, and I've got Rowan Burch here this morning to get into a new deal. Rowan, thanks for jumping on this morning and maybe give people a little bit of your background and what you're seeing in today's crazy market.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, James, for having me on. Rowan Burch, I'm a managing director with RMA, Rowan Multifamily Advisors. I've been in the multifamily business since 2013. I've been in a brokerage position since then. I think one of the big things we're seeing right now is just a concern that folks are having is just rising interest rate environment. How quick will rates rise, and what will that do to our market? I think from a fundamental standpoint, Dallas is really, really strong. Strong inward migration, strong job growth. We really have a lack of affordable housing. So this B and C class multifamily space that we really play in is becoming, I think, more and more sought after.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everybody's looking at 25 basis points, 50 basis points increase in your rate, but I mean, the rent growth that we've seen across the board. If Class A deals are leasing up in 6 to 12 months and they have no concessions, and then rents on the B and C stuff keep going. I mean, there's a lot of value to be had on these deals, and so let's jump into North Haven Park, which whenever I see a deal, I mean, I hate saying this over and over again, but like, some deals trade every 2 years, it seems like, and then other deals you've never seen before. So I wanted to get into this deal because how long has the seller owned this deal?
Sellers owned it since 1995.
1995. So somehow you found this
Mhm.
guy, and at this point he wants to sell. So let's jump into
Yeah.
this deal,
Yeah.
and let's talk about the location first of it.
Sure. Yeah. So North Haven Park, it's 344 units. It sits kind of in the southeast quadrant of 635 and 35. So pretty centrally located. You can get to any of the mid cities fairly easily. Get down to Dallas, very quickly. 635 to the tollway. So a pretty easy access location. It's got a really good ingress egress to 635. And yeah, here's a little bit of a slide that shows a little bit more zoomed in here. So you've got the Galleria to your east. You've got Las Colinas to the west. Love Field down to the south. You can get to any of those areas with a really, really quick car ride. So the location is very central. It's right on the edge. It's kind of right in between a highly residential area and an industrial district. So it is kind of right there on the border. They have an elementary school right across the street, so there's a lot of families on the property. Yeah, and if we go to perfect, so there's an elementary school right there. They have tons of kids. Last week was spring break, and I was walking around the property, and it was like there's kids everywhere. So very family oriented. They have a lot of longer term tenants that have been there for 10, 15, 20 years. So it's a safe place to live. Kids playing all around. And from a location standpoint, the median household income in the area is about 60,000. So really, really strong. That pulls in a lot of that single family from the east side of that area James just showed.
All right. And then, so this property's been owned for 25 plus years. Talk about the exterior and sort of what has been done and what hasn't been done.
Yeah, sure. So the guys that that own it are very hands-on. The owner and kind of the asset manager both, spend pretty much every day of the week at the property overseeing things. So you'll see in these pictures here, it's 2-story. Majority of it is flat roofed property. The siding, which you see in some of the pictures here, was replaced with like a cementuous hardy plank material about 5 years ago. The windows on the property have been replaced in phases over the last 10 years. So the oldest windows you'll have on the property are about 10 years old. And then the roofs, I mentioned partially flat. About 10 years ago in 2011, the owner came in and identified about 11 roofs that were in poor condition and went ahead and put a slightly pitched metal roofing material on those. So those are about 10 years old, and the remainder of the roofs are still flat. And those are going to be about 20 years old. Those are probably hitting their lifespan. I would definitely budget for some repairs on those roofs, if not replacement. But other than that, the property's in, pretty clean condition. Maybe some parking lot work here and there in terms of deferred, but fairly clean. They take care of it. They have guys that stay on top of every different piece of the maintenance side of their project. So, and they manage the property in-house. So, again, very hands-on.
So carpet, and this sort of, I guess you can call that wood, flooring, and then white appliances and sort of white backsplash. That's sort of pretty much every unit on this property. And then,
Yes.
okay. All right. So, maybe we should have put some pictures of the competitors in terms of what they are offering. But yeah, exterior looks pretty clean. Maybe go through some of the mechanicals and any updates
Sure.
that they've done on that piece.
Yeah. So it is a boiler chiller property. So both heating and cooling, and also domestic hot water are done by Central Systems. They have a what they call a low pressure steam boiler system on the property. It's an old system, but it's very efficient. They've kept up with it very well, and it works very well. They don't have any problems with hot water to the units, even though it's a big property and it's only one boiler system. They also have a chiller. The chiller was replaced in 2011, so roughly 10 years ago. And the cooling towers, they have two cooling towers, were both replaced last year. So they're very hands-on with this kind of stuff. They have a maintenance guy on their team, a maintenance tech, whose really sole job is to oversee the boiler and chiller, make sure there's no leaks in the lines, monitor pressures, all that good stuff. So they're hands-on with it, and the systems they have in place seem to be working really well.
All right. So the rents, so in terms of unit mix, here's, the studios, 1 beds, 2 beds, about 70% ones, and then 30% twos. Talk about where sort of the market is, and then what they're getting currently at the property.
Yeah. So their current market rent sits right at about $875 per unit per month. They're effectively at about $827 per unit per month. Right now they're pushing all rents up to those market rates, and they don't have any pushback. They're 100% pre-leased and about 98% occupied. So what we did in our pro forma was we looked at there's a competitive set of about 5 properties in the submarket. We looked at the property next door called Residence at Midtown, which is very similar product, 2-story flat roof, excuse me, both boiler and chiller system on that property as well. And yeah, we've got a picture right here in the upper left, and that's one of their interior upgrades. So you can obviously tell a difference between the picture on the left and on the right. So our thought process was to go in, renovate to a similar standard to Residence at Midtown, stainless appliances, resurfaced countertops, new cabinet fronts and painted cabs, new flooring, and 2-tone paint. And the rental delta between us and Residence is right at about $280 on the effective basis. So we're at $827. They're at about $1113. That's about $280 delta between us and their current asking rents. So we use that as our main comp.
Yeah, and you were saying that essentially the guy who built Residence at Midtown sort of built North Haven Park right around the same time. So a lot of times we're looking for comps. You're driving 3 miles to find a comp. This comp is literally right next door. You're going to go in. The floor plans seem very similar in terms of, they've got 72 efficiencies. You got 72 efficiencies. The 1 beds, 2 bedroom unit mix is pretty similar. And so really just going in, copying that plan. And then, in this little pocket right here, you've got North Haven Park, you've got your Residence at Midtown, and then Sierra Vista and Sedona and North Haven Terrace. So those are your comps right there, in that pocket when somebody decides to lease in that market. So
yeah. And James, if you would zoom in on our property just one more time, while we're on this, I want to touch on something. So there's a kind of a green space right behind the leasing office there. So they have a pool on the property, and then this area they've just fenced off. They just, didn't have anything there, didn't want to spend money on it, and didn't want, it to accumulate stuff and trash and grills and things like that. So they've actually got that area fenced off from the residents right now. you could do something really cool there. Again, a lot of kids on the property. So a couple of the properties in the area have little soccer fields, like little turf soccer fields with nets and potentially a playground and, a grilling area as well. If you go down, I think North Haven Terrace has a soccer field. Well, they do. It's just on the other side of that pool right now. I don't think it's in this aerial, but
Okay.
it's definitely something that I think the kids would use, and the tenant demographic would definitely see some value in.
All right. Let's flip over to, all right. So here's the rents. So 878 getting up to about 1100 on the upside with the upgrade.
Mhm.
So, what's your estimate to really do those upgrades to really get that rent?
Yeah, I think interior, we've got about 7,500 budgeted for that. I think, depending on the purchaser, some guys like to go a little bit further. Some guys, like to keep it a little bit lower. But I think 7,500 is a good estimate to get to a similar finish out to what they're doing at Residence at Midtown, with the exception of the granite. So I think that's a fair number to use for interiors.
All right, perfect. All right, so now let's get into sort of the P&L and where you think, if there's any, obviously you're going to be pushing rents, and then maybe talk through the pro forma for year two.
Yeah, definitely. So we basically, just like we mentioned earlier, we took our current rents, raised those by about $280 to roughly $1,100, all in rent, and really just grew their other income by about 3 to 5%, depending on the item. They're doing a good job of billing back utilities currently. They're capturing, I think, the right amount on that front. So really, this is just going in, renovating interiors and pushing rents to be competitive with the nearby marketplace. So you'll see on our T1, total income's about 3.9 million. Just with those rental increases that we talked about, by year two, you're looking at about 4.8 million. So about $1 million swing in 2 years, just by going in, implementing that interior value add program, and pushing those rents up.
All right. So here's a little bit more of a pro forma year by year, sort of to get from where you are today to year two, year three. And that's really what a lot of the bridge lenders are going to be looking at. So what's the whisper price on this deal again?
We're whispering about 43 million for this. It's about 122 to 125 a door.
Okay, so 122, 125. Okay, so if you're 250 under market, Fannie and Freddie, they're going to look at your in-place income, and so they're probably 21, 22 million dollars on just sort of a fixed rate or even a floating rate deal. If you want to go up to non-recourse bridge, which I think most people buying this deal will, we're seeing bridge lenders really in that 70 to 75% leverage space right now. This is a good size deal, good number of units. So there'll be a lot of people actually bidding on this deal, the sort of north of 20 million. So $31 million loan at 70%, and then 33 million at 75. Right now we're seeing most deals price in at probably 350 to 4% over SOFR, and just building in some increases in your SOFR rate over time as well, and then refinancing out into Fannie or Freddie at that point once you stabilize the asset. So have you guys set a call for offers date yet on this deal?
Yes, we have. It's Thursday the 31st, which is coming up here pretty quick. So if you have any questions about the deal, or want to talk through it, or want to go out and take a look, feel free to give me a call, and definitely give James a call about the debt. We've talked through this deal a number of times, and he's very familiar with it. So if we can be of any assistance, let us know.
I think we have financed every property on that block pretty much. So very familiar. Give us a call if you have any questions about the deal. Appreciate you coming on, Rowan. Any sort of final wrap-up comments on this deal?
I think we covered it all. I think, like James alluded to at the very beginning, these type of deals, long-term ownership, 25 years, they don't come along very often. A lot of the deals you see right now have had one or two different groups put a value add program into place, and you're coming in and just doing a little lift to kind of squeeze some more juice out. This is completely untouched. So it's definitely a unique deal, and would love to talk to any of y'all about it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ron.
Thanks, James.